All right, welcome to the show, everyone. Today, it's actually really exciting because for everyone who knows me, one of the spirits I do really enjoy is a great agave spirit. Today's guest believes that the true spirit of Mexico doesn't need a celebrity mascot or kind of a giant notoriety behind this giant brand. He is leading what he calls the Mexican Renaissance, a movement to take the perception of Mexico away from the old stereotypes that you might know of, and instead showcase the modern luxury and luxurious and artistic reality of the country today. He is a co-founder of Zomoz Mezcal. The name comes from the Spanish word of somos. For those of you at home who know, somos, I'm Hispanic, so of course this speaks to me. Meaning we are, a tribute to the collective community rather than the single individual, and that community is led by a rare force in the industry. A female head distiller, maestra, mezcalera, Isabel Santiago. Today, together, they are producing a USDA organic 100% expanded mezcal. He'll correct me in a moment, I'm sure. That is explicitly designed to be approachable, bridging the gap for people who want the heritage of agave without the aggression of smoke. He is a private pilot, a cattle breeder, an entrepreneur with a vision of a new era in agave. Please welcome to the show, Diego de la Vega Fernandez. How are you, Diego?
I'm fantastic. Hi, Arthur. Thanks so much for having me at your show. And super excited to be here. I love your show, so I'm really honored to join you and to talk a little bit about Zomoz Mezcal and in general about the whole spirit industry and the brand. How we've done it.
Super excited, man. A little bit of history for those listening at home and for you. I got into mezcal because of my fiance.
Love it.
She loved agave. She loved tequila. We were looking for something good. And there was always these celebrity hyped tequilas and all these things. And as we dove deeper into the industry and just bar industry, we started finding out about spirits that weren't necessarily had George Clooney on it or something to that effect. Nothing to them, but we were looking for something more genuine, authentic. So when she fell in love with mezcal, and now it's been part of our rotations of drinks and cocktails around the house. So definitely she was hyped when she heard we were going to have you on.
I love it. I love it. So let me ask you something. You've tried it before. Mm-hmm. What are your honest feedback for Zomoz?
Honest feedback. It is smooth. It is really delicious. It doesn't overpower a cocktail because we tried it in 3 different ways. I used it for a creative cocktail I've worked on that involves Thai red tea as a simple syrup, lime juice, orgeat, the mezcal, of course, because the showcase is that. And I don't know what to call it yet, but I had a lot of fun with it. I have some pictures of it. It was fantastic. And we had a margarita, mezcal margarita. She loved it. And then we did it neat. And we did it with some slices of lime, some tahini, orange slices as well to try to just kind of like change those flavor profiles. We had a lot of fun. So thank you and Laura for hooking us up.
Glad to hear. Glad to hear that you enjoyed it and that you played around with it a little bit. And before I jump, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction of myself.
Of course, please do.
About it, and then would love to follow up on what you were commenting about the flavor profile and the cocktails, because I come from a completely different background. I did law school in Mexico City, grew up there, but had the chance to live a little bit all over the world. I lived in Texas, Europe for a little bit, and even Australia doing a semester abroad. So, lucky enough, and I'm very grateful for my parents, I've been exposed to the world, in that sense. And when I moved to LA for my master's degree for grad school, something that I noticed, it's the spirits market compared to what I was normally accustomed to in Mexico, the brands, they were completely different in the United States, like starting with tequila. Back in the day, the only brands that you could find in the US, the Patron, the Jose Cuervo, Jimador. Now you have 1,000 different brands of tequila, really good local ones. When I say local ones, like from Jalisco, born and raised, newer ones, and then the generational ones. And mezcal blew my mind because all of the mezcals that I would find in the US, and this I'm talking about 8 years ago when I first moved here, I'm like, I had no idea where the brands came from. All the brands that I was used to drinking in Mexico. And as you know, in Latin America, they start us young with the drinking. So República Dominicana too, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. I started drinking mezcal probably like 15 years ago. And it was a very natural transition from tequila to mezcal. So when I moved here, no idea of the liquor industry. And I started going out to bars and student, you go out drinking, etc. And I'm like, give me a mezcal. And I'm like, I don't even know these brands. What are these brands? Oh, why are my Mexican common brands that I love? And no disrespect to any brands, but some of them that I tried out there, I'm like, wow, this is strong. Like even being a mezcal drinker, I'm like, I feel I'm gonna throw up fire. Like here it's burns every time I drink it, and I get it. Yeah, mezcal is a strong spirit and it's smoky, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that strong or smoky. So that's really what sparked like the entrepreneur fire inside of me, or the mentality. I'm like, I think there's an opportunity here. Later on, I started discovering about the three-tier system and how the whole regulation in the US really presents very big barriers of entry for any spirit brand to be imported and sold in the United States. And the vision behind it, we're like, what if we introduce a more approachable or a little bit of a gateway mezcal for the non-mezcal drinker? Because talking even with some friends, most of them didn't know about mezcal, the international or the Americans ones, and those who had tried it before, they're like, "Oh, I don't like it because it's too smoky, it's too strong, it burns." Blah, blah. I'm like, "Well, you've just been drinking the wrong ones, Like there are some brands out there, really good ones. Aside from Zomoz, there's phenomenal brands in the United States now and in Mexico. But the whole idea was to make a smooth mezcal, which is what you just said, approachable, and that plays around well with almost any cocktail out there.
Yeah. To be honest, when we tried it, it felt like such a refined, good mezcal that could stand on its own, and it complements other flavors. Not necessarily masks it, not overpowers it. That it like any good cocktail, if you do it right, everything should work harmoniously. Tasting something in the front, in the mid, like just kind of taking you on a little ride, and it was great. I mean, very limited time with it, but for the things we did try, she loved it. I enjoyed it. And definitely for those who are at home looking for, I perfectly said, entry, like one of those, like a gateway mezcal before you get to the heavier, more smoky, overpowering, everyone has their flavor profiles. I think this is a happy medium.
Exactly. Glad to hear that you enjoyed it. And yeah, that's exactly right. That was the goal. And here we are. We're excited.
So I know that we spoke a little bit about it, but you often speak about the Mexican Renaissance, right? Moving that perception of Mexico away from that old stereotype, sombreros and donkeys and all the things that come synonymous with Latin culture towards a more luxury art and design. How does even the way you have the bottles designed, I took some great pictures with it that I'll post for social media, and I've seen some of the stuff online, but how does that bottle of mezcal actually convey that shift for the consumer of like in a bar in New York or London?
Well, the idea or the concept of the new Mexican Renaissance really happened because I think like 6 years ago, and COVID, I think, had a big factor in this. Mexico City obviously has now become Mexico City, and I think we hear a lot about it, and you hear about Puerto Vallarta and Los Cabos and all the touristic places that we usually heard about Mexico. But to your point, nobody really knew Mexico properly. And I think during COVID and a little bit before that, it started before that, but we saw a boom not only in agave spirits, tequila and mezcal has now boomed here in the United States, but also we saw Mexican food become Americans' consumer favorite food, almost surpassing Italian. And then we see the arts, what's happening in the arts world in Mexico City. We saw Namaco and all of these artists. Like now they have a big global presence. You see music. You see big artists now doing a new genre of music called corridos tumbados, where there's a lot of collaborations between Mexican artists and American artists. And like last year in Coachella, you had all of these Latin artists, especially from Mexico, headlining a lot of the Coachella shows, and all around, no? Yeah. And then you have hospitality and tourism. More and more people are starting to look at Mexico. Like I live in California, so a lot of times I just hear about Los Cabos and the Baja Peninsula. Yeah. And I'm like, oh guys, there's a lot more to Mexico than just Cabo, when I said about COVID, what happened in Mexico is that I saw that a lot of American nomads or virtual nomads were moving to Tulum or to Mexico City, and they're like, oh, life's great here. And it's a global city, and you have amazing food, amazing restaurants. It's cheaper, although now it's not as cheap as before. But suddenly I think Mexico became to a lot of the general population, especially in America or globally, into their radar. Also, more and more people go to that. So that's where we came with the concept of like, look, the Mexican Renaissance, the new Mexican Renaissance is happening now because of how everything starts coming together, all of these things. And from there, when you talk about the bottle and the label, we looked at all of the brands out there, and I get it. They want to represent the tradition of Mexico. In tequila, they want to represent Jalisco and tequila Jalisco. In Oaxaca, they want to represent all of the artisanal side that Oaxaca really is and has there. But for us, we have to look beyond that. O sea, Somos is a combination of the artisanal and the traditional culture that represents Mexico and Oaxaca and the crafting of mezcal with today's liberal, disruptive, elegant, and authentic culture that represents the United States, and especially in Los Angeles. So when we looked at the bottle, when we were designing, it's we want something clean, elegant, that can live a little bit timeless all across the world, because Mexico is not only the artisanal part of Oaxaca. You go to Mexico City and it's super elegant. So we also wanted to portray that when we designed the label.
Honestly, when I saw the bottle, it was gorgeous. I can't speak highly enough of the taste and everything, that even the presentation, your site, all of the material. So definitely, it really conveyed well. So great, fantastic job with it. And
thank you.
Of course. And I think that also lends well to when you're thinking about these elevated cocktail bars, lounges, restaurants, seeing that on a top shelf signs off well. Get curious, hey, what's that? And even though there's something beautiful in its simplicity of the label, it's just a white label, gold letter, black letters, clean. Definitely. I know that I'm a nerd about it. I'm a nerd about marketing and all that. So definitely I can enjoy it.
Love it. Yeah.
And with that being said, in a market that's flooded with agave spirits, agave plants on every bottle, all this, you leaned towards Zomoz. How did you decide? What made you decide that name? And I know I kind of spoke about it briefly in the intro, but I'll let you walk us through that story and what made that decision.
Yeah. Well, we're four main co-founders of the brand. So, and with Isabel, and one way or the other, we all ended up in the United States, or have lived in the United States for a while.
Yeah.
And Somos really means we are. So when we started, you mentioned it briefly in the intro about celebrity part. We see this boom, which I think now it's dialing down, in celebrity spirits. I think there's over 300 celebrity brands out there, and maybe 10 are very successful. I don't know. It really depends. But for us, it was Somos, we want to tell the story of us, the co-founders, but also broaden it to a bigger community, which is the Mexican American community specifically, and then expanding it out to the Hispanic community. Because what we noticed, and again, I'm going to talk more specifically about California, but I think this applies to a lot of the major cities in the United States. The Mexican American community is kind of in their own little bubble. Nobody has really told their story, or nobody has seen it. We know it's there, and it's a massive population. I think it's 65 million immigrants of Latin America in the United States, but nobody has really told their story or raised the hand and told their voice. And now it's third, fourth generation families here. We're we want to be able to tell that story. We want to be that voice, but we want to do it in a traditional way that represents our culture. And something very nice that we do in Mexico, and I'm not sure if you did it in Dominican Republic, but a lot of Latin countries do it. It's every Sunday, get together with the family, share, have a meal, Sunday lunch, and have a drink. So it's Somos, we're bringing it together, telling our story, but opening up to the bigger family and to the bigger community, and inviting everybody to the table. It's hey, let's share together, and this represents us all. So that's how we really came with the name. And talking about celebrities in that first comment, we're it's already overrated. There's too many of them.
Yeah.
And we want the people to identify with us and to feel represented by us. Somebody's actually putting attention to what you're trying to say, and we're trying to spread the word and trying to work together with them in a beautiful, business-oriented way. So telling that nice story. And one of the things that we also said, we're Mexican-made, Mexican-owned. Because a lot of the brands of tequila and mezcal or agave in general, when we look at who founded them and who owns them, we're a lot of them are by Americans. So why are they exploding a product that represents our country? We can do it too, So obviously it's a challenge, but we're that's one of our main things. We're Mexican-made, Mexican-owned, 100%.
I do love that. And it, like you said, nothing against the celebrity brands. They could easily find something they fall in love with and all that. And hey, I want to put my name on it because I believe in this product. But yeah, there is something that just being honest, is it became oversaturated. There was another celebrity behind a whiskey that I've never seen them drink whiskey. There's a celebrity behind a tequila that, for a spirit that's for me, traditionally is in Mexico, like American celebrities attached to it doesn't necessarily echo authenticity. It might be. Yeah. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, but that's one of the things I did enjoy about the brand of yours. What were you going to say?
And you just touched on a very important word. One of a big distinction we make, it's authentic versus legitimate. So yeah, every tequila and every mezcal or every agave spirit is going to be authentic because it's made in Mexico by Mexicans, put it that way. But are they really legitimate? Like who owns and operates everything? And when the company gets sold, let's call it, because we see these $1 billion exits sometimes, like who actually profits from that? You know, like that's a big question mark. And to be clear, we also have celebrities involved in Zomoz. Yeah. But they're not the face. So we have them, through our network, I have a couple of friends, artists from Mexico, from the US, athletes. Ryan Howard's one of them that since we pitched them about the story, they have supported us all the way. But we're like, we're not going to put you as a face because the community and the story, it's the face of the brand. We all are one. You know, that's por eso somos al final del día.
Yeah, it's the heritage and the backstory of the people who actually were there from the beginning. And I do love the fact that you even mentioned those Sunday dinners and those family dinners where like the spirit brought people together. One of the main things that we always say on the show is that no good story started with salad, that there are moments in your life that are connected to a spirit, drinking, food, but like a dinner, like those big moments in your family or a get together, a gathering. And I think spirits are one of those things that I could remember the last time I sat around a campfire with friends and enjoyed a drink. I could remember the last time I was on a back porch till 2 a.m. having the most ridiculous conversations with some of the closest friends of my life. But I remember what we were drinking and I remember what we were that moment. And spirits like mezcal and Zomoz is saying that, putting that out there. So
I love it.
Yeah, I love that I love that was the goal in it, and definitely something I think more people should have.
I agree. No, and I think it's also about we drink to remember, you know, like you said, we don't drink to forget, you know, like we have to drink, and it's beautiful to drink to remember about, the good stories. Definitely, most of my good stories have started with a drink somewhere. Most of it, never with water. That I can promise you.
I was hydrated, I'm sure, but it wasn't the story. Wasn't what I remembered in the story. So, and I know you said that you do have famous people attached to it, but it wasn't the focus. Speaking about kind of those founders and the focuses of the brand, your production is led by maestra. I'll let you say everything. Isabel
Maestra Mezcalera.
Mezcalera.
Maestra Mezcalera. So Isabel, and she's she's a rock star, and honestly, like
Isabel Santiago, right?
Isabel Santiago, exactly. She's based in Santiago, Matatlan, Oaxaca, which is an hour away from Oaxaca City in drive. It's known as the capital of mezcal of the world, and honestly, it was I'll tell you the story of how we came to know each other. When I started going to Oaxaca to look for, hey, who am I gonna partner to work on the mezcal? Something that I learned is that a lot of brands just white label from a mezcalero down there, put their label and export it, and that's it. No, and I'm like, we want to do something differently. We want a real partner in Oaxaca that has equity in the company. So Isabel has equity in the company, aside from a lot of mezcaleros down there. And I started looking and meeting for people. So it took us like around 9 months, that whole searching and testing, etc. And every time we met somebody like a lot of times they're like, we already work with a big brand, but I can white label for you too. And I'm like, that doesn't really feel authentic or exclusive in any single way. Like, so what? I'm going to have the same liquid or the same mezcal that 3 more brands in the United States, but the only thing that's going to be different is going to be the label. I'm like, no, we want to create something authentic, unique. And also going back to what we were talking before, if we succeed and there's an exit or the company actually has really good revenue, we want you to also get some of that, you know, like it's not about just the owners in the United States. Like we want you to see that upside. So I searched with specifically one of my partners with Eloy, who is much more of an expert in mezcal than me, but he got married in Oaxaca and everything. So he's like one of those deep connoisseurs of mezcal. And we started going and interviewing and meeting people. And then with Isabel, we're like, you're a 4th generation maestra mezcalera, a woman.
4th generation.
4th generation maestra mezcalera. Okay. She owns her own land, her own palenque. Actually, funny story, parenthesis. Her grandfather started being her great grandfather, then the grandfather, and the dad. There was a point in Oaxaca. Oaxaca's a very humble state. If you know anything about it, it's always been like that in Mexico history. And there was a point where agave spirits weren't booming like they are today. So there wasn't really a lot of work, no? And the dad immigrated to Los Angeles to save money, worked here for a little bit, saved money, and then went back to Oaxaca to rebuild the palenque and kind of like relaunch his own brand. And women don't really get an opportunity in Oaxaca or in Mexico. You know, Mexico has always been very influenced by the machismo, as I think a lot of Latin America.
Yeah.
So she's one of the few female, or I think it's one of the only one there that has really been leading the industry and trying to grow. And she's young, you know, and then when you talk to her, and we have a couple of interviews that I'm happy to share with you, it's like it's been challenging for her to even get, call it the men workers, to listen to her. So it's a completely different world, but it's Mexico, you know, and that's how it works. So working with her has been incredible, and she's a full rockstar, fourth generation. She knows everything, like when it comes to mezcal, another level.
That is, I'm glad that you took that approach, because it's true. I know that in other industries, I often cite whiskey. They will go to certain companies and get, hey, we have 100 barrels, and as they're coming into their industry, they are buying those barrels and making blends and doing these things. And to your point, it doesn't necessarily make you 100% unique. You're like, especially when you talk about mezcal, which is a lot different than blending whiskeys or something like that. Well, mezcal, it has to be your brand and your style to make you different from everything else. And when we talked about it, about a heavily saturated market with celebrity backed brands and all this fancy things, and people recognizing what's going to set you apart is going to be that flavor profile, that taste, and everything else you've done. So yeah, I'm glad that you guys went that approach and made a product that was quality and took the extra effort.
Yeah, thank you.
And she sounds like a rock star. So shouts to Isabella.
Isabella. Exactly. That's me.
So Zomoz, we already talked about it, about being very approachable and often described as less smoky. How do you achieve that smoothness? For those who don't know about mezcal, first let's start with kind of like a little baby intro. Compared to tequila, what makes mezcal different?
So I always like to introduce mezcal. Think about it a little bit like wine with the regions. No, so let's compare wine and tequila. Mezcal and tequila. Similar to wine, mezcal has a lot of different regions in Mexico that you can create mezcal, and there's over 50 different agave species that you can actually make mezcal from. Tequila only comes from one type of agave, and from one region in Mexico, no? And it's agave blue Weber. So all of tequila is going to come from there and from Jalisco. Mezcal, you have 9 different regions in Mexico, 9 different states with different regions that you can create mezcal, and you can make a lot of blends. So that's why you see the I don't want to say the main one, but it's the type of agave that you can actually scale in volume and in production. It's espadín. That's the one that we are. Then you get into a lot of wild agaves, tobalá, tepestate, cuish, jabalí, and all of those types, all of those varieties of maguey and agave, you can actually blend them. So it's exactly like wine to that point. When it comes to the flavor profile and how we achieved all of that, it's first we let the agave grow, the espadín, which a lot of people harvest from 4 to 5 years. We let it grow to 7 to 8 years. And the weather is very dependent on how long the agave is going to reach that maturity and be ready to be harvested. Then it's cooked for 3-4 days in el hoyo canónico de tierra, we call it. And it's really, this is the same process that has been followed for hundreds of years to produce mezcal. So it's cooked in a hole in the dirt, and everything's hand done. That's why it's artisanal. It's cooked with wood, and you cover the agave piñas, the hearts, with dirt and burning stones, basically. So you leave it cooking for 3-4 days, depending also on the weather. If it's rainy, if it's cold, is it warm? And that's really Isabel who knows how much time to do it. Like, it's not an industrialized process like whiskey or tequila or vodka, where they just put it in the steel oven containers and they're like, 3 hours timer, double distillation. And when people ask us, like, okay, but every single mezcal, which is artisanal, because we have 3 types of mezcal. You have the industrialized, you have the artisanal, and then you have the ancestral. Most of the time, you're going to see artisanal out in the market. And for us, artisanal, what is the difference? I always say that Tajona, which is the big circled rock that it's pulled by a horse, then you do the commonly in the US.
Sorry, I froze up there for a second, but I got the part about, you said, what is artisanal? Do you mind going through that again? It froze there for me.
Yeah, of course. So artisanal, it's by law in mezcal. It's the process by which you have to create mezcal. You have to harvest, burn it, distill it, ferment it. Like all that product has to be artisanal, and it's really made by hands. Okay. Now, that's what it means. So a lot of whiskey and tequila, it's an industrialized process, for example. So they cook it in steel containers and they still it in the steel containers, and everything's industrialized now. Mezcal is not like that. So everything's done and measured by the senses. And that's where the maestra mezcalera really comes into play, or the maestro mezcalero, because you really have to know what it's doing. You know, like one day I was with Isa and it was kind of cold in Oaxaca, and I remember they were burning the agaves for it to come. It was like third day. And I'm like, Isa, how do you know when the agave is cooked and you can actually pull it out? Because there's no instruments and you don't see anything, clearly covered under dirt. They're like, well, I just know. But I'm like, how? And it's just experience that's literally passed down through generations that they learned when they were little. Of like, they know exactly because of the weather outside, and if it's been cloudy or sunny and cold and all of this stuff, how long they need to leave it there. And that's what blows my mind. And that's part of the story of Somos. Going back to earlier what I said about combining the traditions of Mexico and the culture with today's more modern times. You know, we're combining the most or oldest tradition and one of the most sacred drinks that are born in Mexico. Day, even by when the Spanish arrived, because we have to remember that mezcal is also seen as a medicine for a lot of the indigenous community over there. So we're combining that and respecting that, and we want to honor that and bring it to the United States and tell that story. Mm. Now, that's why for us, when people tell us also like, mezcal is a cheap tequila, I'm like, no. Mezcal is harder to make than tequila.
People say that.
People say that. I've heard that before, that it's like, it's tequila's cheap cost. I'm like, no, guys. Tequila has some levels, but I'm like, mezcal has, and I don't want to generalize, but I've heard those comments. I'm just,
no.
People are obviously not as knowledgeable as you, or of our listeners, but sometimes I've heard like, no, guys, tequila is actually a type of mezcal. Let's remember that, and let's remember that it takes a lot of work, and everything's literally physical work to produce mezcal because it's artisanal. Yeah. So we want to honor that, and when people usually they're like, mezcal has to be cheap. And I'm like, no, mezcal should be expensive. We should honor the hard work that goes into producing mezcal.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, I got defensive. I don't even work for you. I just, for my mind, con permiso? Like, relax.
Exactly.
I think what especially as a Latin man, like, I think I just know a lot of Hispanic culture and Latin culture is hard work, putting your hands, all that. And I'm a big rum fan, and one of my favorite rum distilleries is Brugal, and they have a female rum master distiller, but different brand. Yeah. But same thing, backstories about like they just have a vibe. It's an energy, like they know when everything's good to go. I'm like, what? Yeah. It adds generations after generations and generations of experience with this. You said fifth generation? Fourth generation. So that is definitely a unique, and it's tough, right? How are you going to teach that to somebody? He's like, you just know. I just, what? Like, please let me.
Years.
So a little bit about, I want to know a little bit more about you. Can you give us more about your backstory and how you brought you to wine and spirits industry? Like it's a unique pathway to have four people say, you know what, let's do this. But what was your path here?
So my path, going back to a little bit, I moved to the US 2018 for grad school. Okay. And to all of any fellow Trojans from USC listening out there, fight on. So, alma mater. So I moved here with the idea of going back. And as I said, I knew nothing about spirits, like at that point. And I remember an anecdote that I'm going to tell you right now. I was in a bar in Santa Monica, and we were having drinks with friends, and I walk into the bar, and it's supposed to be an agave spirit bar, kind of Elefante, great bar, rooftop, super nice, vibey. Like, I want a mezcal. And I look at the mezcal bottles and I'm like, I've never seen any of these brands. So I'm like, ask the bartender, what do you recommend? And I'm like, he's like, I'll try this one. I don't even remember what brand it was, but he recommended me a brand there. Mm-hmm. He's like, how do you drink it? And I'm like, neat. No, that's how I'm used to drinking mezcal or in Mexico usually. And I remember when he gave it to me, he's like, good luck. So when he wished me good luck, I'm like, wait,
why did you recommend something I need luck to enjoy?
Like I think it wasn't like good luck. He was more about, he was impressed that somebody was ordering mezcal neat.
Ah, okay.
So, was that not in a bad way? He was like impressed. I'm like, give me whatever. Yeah, this one. Great. And he's like, good luck. And when I tasted it, I'm like, okay, this is a punch. No, this is strong. Mm-hmm. So I decided to changing my legal background and changing my political background and everything. I'm like, I'm going to venture for this. There's an opportunity here. Like, then I started noticing in the market that everywhere I went, I tried the mezcal. I'm like, doesn't really work. And just having all of the experience in the back, naive of myself, I think on a little bit side and maybe being a little bit too cocky, like, this
confidence is key. Confidence is key, right?
Let's start our spirits brand. Like, how hard can it actually be? So
how hard was it?
I honestly think like today, if you would ask me, would you start from scratch again on a brand without knowing the industry? I might feel like, ooh, that's tough questions, like that's I would have to think about it. I love it. But I think the whole world that I've been through, like I mentioned earlier, I had the opportunity of living in Sydney and Texas and Europe for a little bit of my life. I always like education and challenging myself, and I love the world, So I'm like, I think there's an opportunity here, and I'm starting implementing all of my knowledge together and say, like, let's go for it, like let's do something different. So I think I diverted a little bit from your question and the background, but
that's perfect.
Bring me back to any specifics.
Yeah.
And I loved it, like since then I don't regret anything and I don't regret doing it. And that's that. No, I was coming for 2 years to LA and now it's been 8. So I'm like, it's nice.
I mean, it's a beautiful journey, right? You came here for one specific goal in mind and found a dream that was better than that or different, unique.
Exactly.
With Zomoz, you have achieved the USDA organic certification, which is a massive hurdle regarding paperwork and farming. When you spoke earlier about getting everything cleared to go into the United States, everything like that. Why was that stamp important rather than just saying we use natural practices like many other brands do?
Because it was a hurdle and it was a pain getting the USDA organic certificate. When I say a pain, it took us also a couple of months, like over 6 months to get everything. And you have to have the company certified in Mexico and then certified in the US, but also complying with what's organic, So that's something that since the beginning, Isa has been very, very specific in her way of working and how all her sustainable practices that she practices in the Palenque and in Oaxaca. We're like, we need to get your USDA organic certificate. I'm like, Isa, do you have it? And she's like, no, I don't have it. I'm like, so we worked together, got it, had everybody inspected. And we're very proud of it. Let's put it that way, because Isabel follows all the sustainable practices that one could follow. Mm-hmm. And also we see a lot of people saying, oh, my tequila, my mezcal is added free and no this and no that. And I'm like, okay, well, the actual monogram talks, like, why does everybody say that? And nobody has it. So I'm like, or very few brands have it. So I'm like, might as well just put our, ¿cómo se dice en inglés? I'm sorry that I'm speaking Spanish. Put our words where our mouth is?
Put your money where your mouth is. Put your money where your mouth is.
So I'm like, perfect. Let's do it. So here it is. We are sustainable and we follow our sustainable practice, and we managed to get the organic because we do follow all the natural practices that we can follow. And mezcal in general, it's going to be organic in theory. But you never know. Like somebody might be doing a little tricky here or there. So
throwing some sugar, cane sugar or something. Nothing. Listen, and I think that's a massive achievement. We had an interview with Broken Shed Vodka and spoke about, and I mentioned that right now is a perfect time to have very much transparency in what people are putting in their bodies, spirits as well. And it's important to the consumer. They don't want, I think that, at least my opinion, obviously I'm not the expert in end all be all, but I think that there's been a shift of much more focused on transparency and more of value and quality versus cheap and fast. Like you can either get something cheap and expensive, or like fast and expensive or cheap. That's a big thing.
If I can add to your comment right now, like I've always said, quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's about enjoying one or two good drinks. You're not gonna have 20 of them, but if you're gonna have 2 drinks, have good drinks, because we know that people are much more conscious, like you said, about their diets, drinking, all of these things. We know that the younger generations might be drinking less, but I'm like, if you're gonna drink, at least drink something good, quality, and something healthy, and that's why. For us, we're really 2 ingredients. We're going to 3 if you want to put it, like water, maguey or / agave, and the natural yeast. There's nothing else. That's it. Water and agave.
And I love that. And to your point, for people who I'm older. I'm older than some of the people who are probably drinking right now. And I'm gonna tell you right now, to any further younger listeners, get quality over quantity, because hangovers and all that terrible feeling and all that's very not a problem when you invest in a higher quality product. You get to enjoy that without feeling the regret the next day. I feel great drinking a good mezcal, drinking a good whiskey and all that, and it's enjoyable. And you're drinking we circle back to remember, not to forget. And with these, you get to enjoy those spirits, cocktails, and everything like that. So I love the fact that was a big goal for you guys, and continuing those traditional practices, right? Because that then also leans into, if you're sticking to the tradition and what's grounded this brand, you need to stick to that natural ways of doing this.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't have said it better. Yeah.
So I know that you lived in all of these countries, Australia, Germany, and have there ever been, when you entered into the spirits industry, any unique or standout stories that you wanted to share with us? Or I know that we sent you some of these questions, but what was the most interesting story that happened to you since leading with your company?
I'll tell you a big mistake that I made, or not a mistake, but something that happened, an interesting story. So we had everything ready to go. We did the first batch in Mexico. We had the labels. We have all the inventory, etc., etc. And you've seen the label. It's black. It's black letters, white paper. The paper is kind of like cottonish, soft, a little bit more elegant than your standard paper. So we shipped the first batch to the US. I was super excited, super happy. We were like, great. We had the cola. We were working already with the importer. We had the distribution. It's like, let's go. Time to rock and roll, The first batch arrives, and I remember going to pick up some sample cases from the importer. And the moment we open it, our boxes are our standard carton box, nothing crazy. And the label was completely smudged, like the paper. The white label was completely smudged with the black ink. And I was like, shit. Sorry, pardon my French.
Oh, good. We're past 10 minutes in.
We're past that. I mean, salud. Exactly. We're already mezcal here. So salud with that one. I'm like, shit. Every single case that we opened, one of the bottles, or most of them, they were completely smudged with the label. Like unserviceable. Like we couldn't present that to anyone. We're like, what are we going to do with 300 cases in the United States? First batch. How are we going to fix this? Naive of us. We didn't know that sometimes you had to put a paper cover or a plastic or bubble wrap, like different brands do different things to protect the label, because this was a paper label. And I'm like, nobody told me this. So it's a story that I always like to tell, because to date, I'm like, everything else, great headaches. And last year we lost our RNDC, and that was a whole different ballgame, for the game changing for the industry in general. But I'm like, that specific story. Oh man, I remember reprinting all of the labels and relabeling 300 cases was a pain. Like once the product's
by hand?
It's by hand. Yeah, of course. Everything's done by hand.
I'm thinking
that's another thing.
Oh, I'm thinking about the 300 by hand, like peeling off, putting on, peeling off, putting.
You couldn't imagine how were we in the warehouse with these special permissions to do all of these things. And we're like, wow, this is something that I hope nobody has to experience because it was an interesting lesson and story.
And okay, now with you've scaled up to meet demand and maintaining traditional methods. Where is that line where you will absolutely not compromise and like, hey, we will modernize and scale up, but where is it? Like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to take any shortcuts. Like, where, like, are you satisfied with keeping things of a smaller scale to maintain those traditions?
I think we have scale to grow with the infrastructure and the land that we have in Oaxaca that Isabel owns and that we own in Oaxaca to a good volume. Like we can grow up to 8,000 liters a month. Like everything's there. So when we talk about scaling it to more of a modern production, like for us, it's always going to be about keeping the product and the production artisanal and following the same tradition and scaling to the level of our capabilities. From there, I'm like, how are you really going to continue scaling? Well, you get to a point, and hopefully we get to it, where our production is not going to give us more, but then we can start working maybe with the community to get more agave, but Isabel will always be our maestra mezcalera, and she will always be in charge. A lot of the land in Oaxaca, for those who don't know, it's community owned. So you can always source more agave if it's the right agave with the other members of the family or whatever it's going to be. But for us, it's always keeping the traditional and the artisanal side of Zomoz as it is. Is it going to be challenging? Yes, definitely it's going to be challenging. It's going to take more time. Maybe it's going to take more time. It's not the same producing 2,000 cases than producing 20,000 cases. So it's just a matter of how do you structure it and time it, and good problems, I would say, at that point that we would have to focus and solve.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have, right? Like I don't have enough spirits to give all the demand that's out there. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that as a consumer, because I think that's always something that's scary of when a spirit gets too popular. Is like then where our shortcut's going to be taken. And you guys don't strike me as the type who wants to take the shortcut, bouncing around the whole world and figuring out life. So. Great.
Well, it's about the long-term vision, that most people want a quick in and out. And I'm like, no, this is going to take years. And it's part of it. Yeah. We're young, Arthur. I know you said you're older, but we're young still.
Young at heart. Just keep drinking mezcal and you'll feel young forever.
Exactly.
So as one of the things I was curious about is, a lot of people, you were not able to achieve success without some help along the way. Are there any people that you think played a big role or influence on your pathway here?
Definitely. And one with whom I'm really, really, truly grateful. It's a great mentor, friend, an advisor of mine, also Rudy Ruiz. Rudy Ruiz is also an immigrant. He's Cuban-American. Mm-hmm. He's been in the industry for a long time. I mean, at one point he was the CEO of Bacardi. Oh. I think like 20 years, more than 20 years. No, like 30 years ago. And then he worked in Southern, and he's honestly the one that has taught me everything about the industry. Like, he's an amazing guy. I mean, he was CEO of Bacardi back in the day, so you could imagine everything that he knows and has seen. And without him, I don't think I'm going to be here. I have a lot of friends and mentors, advisors, investors on this side, but him is one that I really want to point out to. And I also want to thank Fred Cook, who is a former professor of mine in the Masters, who taught me a lot, because I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but during my second master's, when I decided to do this, I went back to USC to get another degree. I needed to learn about branding and entrepreneurship and business, etc. So I decided to go back to school, and one of my professors there was Fred Cook, and he helped me a lot to build the brand and understand all of this, what marketing really meant. Like I came from public policy and legal and law school. So I didn't know anything about building brands and marketing and PR and communication. So them two have played a pivotal, a very important part in my life and in this brand, guiding me.
That's awesome, man. I mean, it's we can't do it alone, and Somos is almost synonymous with that, right? You need a community to be able to achieve those goals and do the things that matter to you. Yeah. So that name just works perfect, right?
Exactly. No, and it's how you say, like you need a community to go. Like if you want to go far, go together. If you want to go quick, go alone. And it's like this again. It's the long term, and we want to go far. So paso a paso.
Yeah, the brand is definitely one that I think is going to have staying power, and slow, steady in the right way, last a lot longer. So I got a couple questions before we close out, right? Any exciting projects you got going on? Anything you're looking forward to? Any events for Zomoz?
We do have a couple. We're opening up the New York market now, starting to send a couple of bars, restaurants over there. So that's one of my main goals for this year. I think it's exciting. We do have a couple of events starting to come up especially here in LA, during Art Week, Freeze, which is, I love it, to be honest. So super exciting things there. And building out the calendar. Like when it comes to events, we also always like partnering with other brands. We have something in Coachella partnership coming up, and music. Not fully our own. We always like to partner with other people because, again, we like to collaborate.
Yeah.
So it's all about collaboration for us. And the New York market, that's, I think, for us, the most important thing and the most exciting. Also starting to open up more of Northern California. So for any listeners out there in San Francisco, Bay Area, Napa, I'm actually going tomorrow there to do a little bit sales blitz. And we already have a couple of accounts. So start looking for us over there.
Okay.
And I think for now, it's the most interesting things that we have going on. A lot of work for sure. Sure. Last year was a tough year in the industry for everyone. So now we hope to get back on track.
I did hear that. So if you ever expand to Orlando or Florida, you let me know. I got you.
Thank you, man.
Of course. And real quick, when you talked about, expanding and getting into bars and getting to those scenes, it was the focus was it always the focus of, hey, here's the spirit, try it out, or to get into those bars? Was it with the approach of cocktails? Was it an approach of how were you kind of presenting that to the industry?
I always like to say, like, look, obviously cocktail placements is the goal for us at the end of the day. And we're like, hey, we place around very well with everything. It really comes back to account to accounts, Sadly, we know that a lot of accounts right now aren't doing that well. So the industry, you always have this other side of it, doing events and parties, and they ask for things that as a startup, sometimes we can't actually do, all of the account support that some of them ask for. And well, it comes down to the relationship. For me in LA, everything has been built relationship wise, like we're still limited in marketing budget. We can't throw the massive parties. We can't invite everybody to a festival, but it's all about relationships and building long term. Like maybe you start with a pack bar and then you get them in and you get them to try it neat, and then maybe they like it neat, and then they start playing with the cocktails like you did yesterday. They're like, we're actually loving it in an espresso or in espresso
Carajillo.
Instead of martini, or instead of an espresso martini, you do it espresso mezcal.
Well, you can do a carajillo with it too.
Oh, carajillo, exactamente. And I mean, the margarita plays amazing with it. Spicy mezcal margarita, I think, is one of my favorite ones. The Paloma.
We did.
You can also do very high-end ones. So
okay, I love that. I do love their approach too, especially when you think about margaritas synonymous with a good night out, and to get into the cocktail scene and everything like that, I think is one of the best ways of approaching, especially something like a spirit that people might be a little afraid of, because mezcal had that name, had that reputation of being smoky and overbearing, but this is definitely not that. Anyone at home, this is fantastic. Definitely try it out.
No, and I always like to encourage drinkers out there, like, hey, try it neat. Try it in your favorite cocktail so that you can, but most importantly, try it neat first so that you can actually taste the flavor profile, and then mix it with everything else that you want to.
Claro.
And at the end, some people say like, mezcal, I've heard this in the industry also, like, mezcal should only be drank neat and without ice. And sometimes I tell people, like, if you want to throw a big cube in there with a twist of orange, do it, However you like to drink it, that's where you should enjoy your mezcal. People say, you should never mix mezcal. I'm like, guys, in Oaxaca, we mix it with hibiscus water and with maracuya and mango and all of these things. you can definitely mix mezcal. Like that's like whoever says that it shouldn't be drank neat. Sure, it's a one way to do it, but you can play around with it. However you enjoy it, that's how you should drink it.
Yeah, variety is the spice of life, right? I want to enjoy it how I want to enjoy it. Definitely, yeah. I'm on that same page. So, two of the questions I like to ask everyone before we close out is: one, what is your deathbed cocktail? What is the drink or if your last drink on earth, what would it be?
Oh man, last drink, any drink.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. I have to confess something. I tried cocktails, but I like drinking all my spirits neat, straight up. So I would drink something straight up, mezcal included. Well, I would have to say Zomoz, of course, deathbed cocktail right there, or deathbed drink. No, straight up mezcalito, maybe with a chaser of a hibiscus water on the side, which is phenomenal to chase it with. I would probably have that. No.
Okay.
Good little mezcal.
Can't go wrong with mezcal.
And maybe I don't die. They say mezcal's a medicine, so maybe it brings me back.
It is one of those spirits that apparently is better for you and your health. I've heard that more than once. I'm not even lying. I remember when I was trying to get healthy, when I was healthy, they're like, oh, tequila is actually really pretty good for you. Okay. Mezcal's really great for you too. All right, cool. Perfect excuse. And last but not least, if you were stranded on a desert island and you could only bring one bottle with you, and it wasn't Zomoz, can't be mezcal, what would it be drinking and with who?
Can't be mezcal and can't be Zomoz. That's a good one. I would say, look, man, I love rum. Yeah. And if it's a desert island and it's in the Caribbean, somewhere in the Dominican Republic, something like that, I'll definitely have to go with a nice little rum. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite ones, a nice Zacapa.
Zacapa is really good.
I love Zacapa, man. Like I could drink it neat, one big rock. That's what I would be drinking. With no one. I don't want to share it with anyone. I'm stranded, like I'm by myself. The bottle's for me, like
it'll be
I'm going Jack Sparrow here, pirate style, just one bottle for me, that's it.
Definitely. It'll be one of those just calm moments. I get to just relax. Nobody can talk to me here.
It's like this bottle's mine. You go over there. Exactly.
Oh my God. I love it. That's actually one of the first times someone said, I just drink by myself. Like, I'll be fine. I guess to relax. But it's a perfectly valid response. There are times I just want to enjoy this. And if I'm on a deserted island, that means there's a beach, right? So I guess I get to just hang out.
Exactly. Like I said, now tell me where the island is. Is it Antarctica to that point or somewhere down there? No. We're talking about Dominican Republic. República Dominicana.
Yeah.
Some nice weather.
Yeah.
The oceans. Love it.
Perfect.
A nice little Zacapa. We'll have to drink one together one day.
Let me know, man. I'm always around. So, Diego, where can people find you? Anything you want to speak about and share with everyone? Any events that you'd like them to know about?
Well, I would say you can definitely find us online for now. If anybody wants to try us, zomozmezcal.com. Ships all around the U.S. Available in every single state. So we're there. Try us, purchase us. For those in California and L.A., we have around over 100 accounts here in on-premise. So look for us in your favorite bars, in your neighborhood bars. Go out. We are in Total Wine as well. We are in Northgate too. So that's in California primarily. New York, we just opened up a couple of accounts for those New Yorkers that like to go out. Anvil, W Hotel, what other ones? Selene. We're starting to open up some bars, nightclubs. So in our Instagram page, you can see more of the list of the places that we're at. And we'll start posting about the events to come. We're still working on the schedule and the calendar. So follow us on Instagram, Zomoz Mezcal, and stay up to date with all of the events and places that we're going to be at so that you guys can join.
Perfect. Thank you again, Diego, for coming on the show. Super interesting to get to know your journey and more about Zomoz. I'm sure that people at home wanted some information to the difference between mezcal and tequila and everything that goes into making it. So thank you for providing that for our listeners as well.
Thanks so much for having me. And I'm looking forward to having one together pretty soon. I'm going to have to come to Florida to see you.
Let me know. I mean, I've been meaning to go to LA anyway, so I have family out there.
Mi casa es tu casa aquí. So whenever you come, please let me know and I'll see you here and I'll make sure to invite you some good little mezcal.
Yes. Looking forward to it. Let me go tell my fiance.
There we go.
So, as always, thanks. Shout out to Laura for putting us together and hooking this up. So for everyone listening at home, make sure you like, subscribe, keep an eye out on our social media. We're going to be sharing some cocktails using Zomoz and some of the fun pictures and just creative ideas we've been experimenting with. So if you like what they're producing, make sure that you follow them on social media and give their bottles a try. Definitely worth a shot. And honestly, it's easily something I'm going to keep on rotation. Like, not even saying it because you're on the show. I've enjoyed it so much, and I've been looking for a new mezcal to have at our bar that isn't, going through some agave controversy or anything else, and something that just feels legitimately, authentically good and pure. So thank you for introducing me to it. It's definitely something we're going to keep around.
Thank you, man.
Of course, man. For listeners at home, drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive. Do this, and make sure that you're sharing with your friends and share a drink and make some memories. Take care and see you guys next week. Bye, everyone. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Burn Termite and Pest Control. I first met Joe Byrne on Full Frontal Nerdy Show and decided to give his company a try. They have been the best pest service I've ever had. From flexible scheduling, attention to detail, fair pricing, and everything you love about a small business, I highly recommend Joe Byrne and Burn Termite and Pest Control. It's a family-owned and operated business with over 30 years of experience in termite and pest. You can reach Burn Termite and Pest Control at 321-297-7985. Once again, 321-297-7985. And let them know Bourbon and Bullshit sent you. Thanks, guys. See you next time.